asked to take a plea bargain. So at this point, when Doc was trying to explain that, I think they kept him up until 2 or 3 in the morning trying to coerce him into taking that plea. You know, they told him, I would do it for my own son. You got to take this plea. You got to take this plea. And they wouldn't let him have any food or water, so he was under duress. And that's when he finally took it. So he wanted to come out of that. He said, no, I'm not guilty, but they wouldn't let him. And that's when his attorneys was like, okay, we're going to send him to a psychiatric facility because he's not doing what we want him to do. And this is also the same time when they said change of venue, which means we don't want to have the case in the same town where all the natives hate us because of what the sheriff has done. So we were asking for it to be changed to a more a place where not that many people knew about what was going on with us, because they would all be biased. Any kind of jury out of that area would be biased. July 18th. Judge Lawson recuses himself from case after defense states he interfered with the plea bargain process by stating he does not accept the plea, as he feels sentence should be much longer. When the judge said, I think the sentence should be longer, he broke the law. Judges are not supposed to have any opinions or emotional feelings towards any case. They can only follow the law, and he was supposed to pick reasons from the law book to say why you are going to turn down this plea. Not because, oh, I feel that he should get longer. So he had to recuse himself. At that point, we thought that's a good thing, but the judge that came after that was even worse. On September 9th, motion granted by Judge Royal to set trial date for January trial scheduled for 1504. Now, Judge C. Ashley Royal is the judge that we ended up getting. Let me explain to you why he was worse than the other judge. Before he became a judge, he was an attorney. And he fought a case. We had a brother. He knows this. He knows his brother. He was he used to be in the family. Yeah. He was the one that used to have the Houston bookstore back in the late 90s. I don't know if y'all remember, right there in 3rd Ward. This brother had, got called to Tamaray and was living on Tamaray, and he had to go to the hospital, and they left a sponge inside of him. So we were in the midst, they were suing him, and he was the judge for the hospital. He was the attorney for the hospital. C. Ashley Royal was the attorney for the hospital against Nuwaubians. So he already had hatred in his heart towards Nuwaubians. Then he became a judge. Then he sees that Lawson recuses himself, and he takes on, he's like, oh, I'll take it. And he took the case, and he was the one who was our judge. And he moved the venue to his hometown. But he had complete control. And that's where it was in Brunswick, Georgia. All right, October 24th. Status conference held before Judge Royal in Macon. Malachi York found competent to stand trial. Attorney Rubino requests. So you see, it took all the way to October. From July to October, he was locked up in New York in a psychiatric prison. Now, I don't know if y'all know how they treat psychiatric prisoners, but they try to drug you and drug you and drug you and drug you. All right, now we're moving down to October 31st. Order denying motion to dismiss for lack of jurisdiction. So we would file all kinds of motions to dismiss, but Royal was just denying them all. October 28th, order granted in part and denied in part for change of venue for trial. The court determines Reverend York couldn't get a fair trial in the Macon division of the Middle District of Georgia, but denies defense request for transport to another venue. So he agreed that he wouldn't get a fair trial in Macon, but he denied where they wanted him to go. I think his judge said Atlanta would be more fair because some of them know about us and some of them don't. And it's a much larger city versus a small town like Brunswick or Macon or Eatonton or any of those small towns around there, Milledgeville. Those are too small. Every local newspaper that was going out at that time was was stuff against us, not for us. That's why we had to put out flyers in our own newspaper. I was actually the one over the newspaper at that time. We had to put out our own stuff to try to combat all the lies that they were telling about us and about the case. November 11th, order granting motion to seal superseding indictment signed by Judge C. Ashley Royal. November 21st, federal grand jury returns a third indictment, a new 13 superseding indictment with alleged violations of federal racketeering statutes, aka federal RICO violations. Let me explain to you why they did this. At first, the state was saying he had all these counts of child molestation. It was these adult, bitter people who were saying, when I was little, he touched me. Now, there's a statute of limitations on child molestation, and it had run out, so they didn't have a case. So the federal people was like, okay, what does not run out? Murder, RICO. They couldn't say he killed anybody. They ain't had nobody that died. So they said, okay, well let's put that RICO on there. So they threw it on there with no evidence. He paid his taxes every year. His own CPA got on the stand and said he pays more taxes than any more of my other clients because of how much revenue he has. Sometimes he pays more than he's supposed to. So there was no racketeering going on. They threw that in there so they could charge him with the other charges, which was transporting minors with the intent to do something indecent. Intent, which means I don't know if you're gonna do it or not. I just think you are.
Right.
All right. December 16th, waiver of personal appearance arraignment for Malachi York, and a plea of not guilty to the third superseding indictment was entered on his behalf by defense. New charges including racketeering and money structuring. Pre-trial conference held before Judge Royal in Macon, discussion of pending motions, and the court addresses counsel regarding trial, and Judge Royal declares himself the gatekeeper. We were trying to get Royal to recuse himself the whole time because we knew about him being the attorney against the Nuwapian brother that passed away due to a sponge being left inside of him, but he refused. He was very cocky, and he was like, I got this case, I'm not recusing myself. Where we at? December 30th to 31st, 2003. Order denying defense counsel's motions to separate of the superseding indictment and to dismiss 1 and 2 of the superseding indictments. So here, our new attorney by this time, we found some local attorneys that look a little bit more like us, that seemed like they were going to try to help us out. And he was just filing motions to dismiss, and Royal was denying all of those motions. Okay, let's see. Pre-trial conference held before Judge Royal in Macon. The court finds the jury will be sequestered during the trial, except possibly during deliberations. I'm sure some of y'all know what sequestered means. The jury had to be separated from the public the whole time during the trial. They couldn't have any contact with family, friends, their jobs. They couldn't read a newspaper. They couldn't watch TV. They couldn't do anything the whole time during the trial. And that's usually the case with anything that's high, they feel like high priority. Thank you. The trial will be open to spectators by way of closed circuit TV on the 3rd floor. That's what I was telling y'all earlier. Only spectators could come, but we had to watch it from the 3rd floor, and the only people that could actually be in there were the press. The court advises counsel that the motion to suppress will be denied and that the motions dismissed too shall be denied. Defense counsel Patrick objects and renews objections. The court addresses members of the gallery. Demonstrations during the trial of the case passes out case law. Now our new attorney, Patrick, he had never done a federal case before, but he didn't tell us that until we had gotten started, and I heard he let it slip out. Because his actual team, somebody had done a federal case, but we really couldn't afford the whole team. So he took it on by himself, and really this was a case where you couldn't really do by yourself. So we had an attorney that had good intentions, but he didn't have the expertise behind him that he really needed. All right, moving into this 2004. Did I get here? January Second, order that the jury in this case will be anonymous and that the trial of this case will be closed to spectators. Only properly credentialed members of the